This is WPHL TV, Channel 17, Philadelphia.
And welcome back to the NWA 1984 Project. I'm your host, Alex G. And with me, as always, is Matt Riley. How you doing tonight, Matt?
I'm battling, man. I'm battling.
All right. You are the champ. The people's champ. So on this episode of the NWA 1984 Project, it will be another closed-circuit event from the Philadelphia Civic Center in beautiful, palatial Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Yuck.
Did you say yuck?
Have you been to Philadelphia, man?
It's been a while.
Yeah, you didn't miss much. I broke down in Philadelphia one time.
Did you?
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't the city of brotherly love?
It was the city of stolen hubcaps and crazy shit, but whatever. It's okay.
Oh, boy.
Put that on your poster next to your steak.
So on this show, the main event will be the Battle of the Nature Boys. So we have Nature Boy Buddy Landel taking on the Nature Boy Ric Flair. I thought it was always strange that, you know, in Crockett in '84 there was two Nature Boys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I've mentioned this on the show before. I think it may have hurt Buddy Landel's career a little bit by going by the name Nature Boy. Yeah. I understand they're both kind of homages, to say the least, of Buddy Rogers. And I wonder this. This is something I've been wondering. When Vince McMahon did his national expansion, he pulled in all the top talent from around the country, your Hulk Hogan's, your Roddy Pipers, your Dr. D. David Schultz, your JYDs, your Paul Orndorff.
Sure.
You know, did he make a play for Ric Flair? I don't know if that's ever been a question that's been posed before. And if he didn't make a play for Flair, was it due to the fact that, you know, they just had Nature Boy Buddy Rogers there managing Jimmy Snuka, and bringing in another Nature Boy at that point, regardless of his talent, would have been weird for a New York audience? You know, maybe the New York audience, the Northeast audience, would have rejected Ric Flair because they would say, oh, he's a copycat of Buddy Rogers, because Buddy Rogers was obviously the WWF champion. You know, he was a mainstay in that promotion for so long that maybe they thought Flair would have been a ripoff, or they would have, you know, would there have been an attempt to repackage Flair as something different? And I wonder how that went about, because I'm assuming, from what I understand, that he did go after every piece of top talent, and that would include guys he didn't get. So he didn't get the Von Erichs. He didn't get Dusty Rhodes. He didn't get Ric Flair. I mean, I'm of the opinion if he would have gotten Ric Flair at that time, Crockett would have been dead. Like, they wouldn't have recovered from losing Flair at that point. But I wonder if there was an offer made, and, you know, maybe there was an offer, and Flair was like, no, I'm the NWA World Champion. I'm making such and such amount of money. You know, I'm the top guy. You're going to have Hogan. He's going to be your top guy. I'll never, you know, get over Hogan, or maybe even get over Piper at that point either. So it's something to consider. I kind of wonder how that would have played out. And I'm also curious. I do have a question to pose to everyone out there.
Uh-oh.
So when Vince is making his attempt to buy all the other territories, so obviously we know for a fact that there was an offer made to the AWA, which was declined. There was an offer made to World Class Championship Wrestling, which was declined. No one ever talks about if there was ever an offer made to Crockett, or if there was an offer ever made to Florida. He obviously would buy Georgia Championship Wrestling. He would buy Stampede. He would take over Maple Leaf, the Maple Leaf Wrestling promotion in Toronto. He would take over, I guess, at the very least, the television show in St. Louis, because then the WWF had their own version of wrestling at the Chase. And I wonder, from the guys who declined the opportunity to join up with the WWF, which one of them, would it be Vern and Greg Gagne, the Von Erichs, Eddie Graham, would have had a major impact in the overall philosophy and perhaps booking of the WWF at the time? Because Vince was not only offering them, like, oh, I'm going to give you $1 million, plus you get an opportunity to come work for me. You know, which guys would have maybe had the Pat Patterson spot? You know, would Greg Gagne be someone that would be trying to innovate with the Team Challenge series or something ridiculous? Eddie Graham was one of Vince's closest friends. You know, we don't even know if they even made an attempt to buy Memphis. Like, could you imagine 1984 Lawler coming up to the WWF? That would have been crazy to me. Like, where would you put him? Would he be a babyface? Would he be a heel? He could have been someone that could have replaced Slaughter as the number 2 babyface. Eventually, that spot did go to JYD for a while. But I wonder how Lawler would have done in the WWF during the expansion era, especially he's hot coming off the Andy Kaufman. So he's known nationally. You know, he's big in the magazines.
Yeah.
We saw him on David Letterman with Andy Kaufman. Would he have been able to make a big impact in the WWF in like late 83, early 84? And I'm assuming he would have done great, but I think where it might have been difficult, if you would have brought him in as a heel and put him in a program against Hogan, he would have buried Hogan on interviews. Because that's one thing Lawler was good at. Like, even a face-to-face verbal confrontation with Jerry Lawler, you're going to lose. And he's going to bury you. Like, Piper was very similar, but, you know, having Piper and Lawler up there as heels, I think may have hurt Hogan politically, and it probably would have hurt his drawing ability. You know, because, you know, Lawler's smart, too. It's not... Lawler can make people look very bad.
Yeah.
On a promo. So I'm just curious about, you know, again, we look at the state of wrestling in 1984 overall. You have World Class, which is still doing well. You have Mid-South going into their best year. Crockett is on the decline post-Starrcade 83. Florida is dying. St. Louis is basically dead. Kansas City's basically dead. LA's been dead for a while. Detroit's been dead and buried for a very long time. Stampede doing well, but they sell out. Toronto with the Tunnies, they're doing okay, but they would sell out to Vince. Georgia in 84 is not the best.
Yeah.
You know, I think 80, 81, 82 is probably their best year. I really like 83. I know a lot of people don't like 83 Georgia, but I do, especially when the Road Warriors come in, and they're doing a lot of fun stuff up there. But again, the problem with a lot of those promotions, when you go back and watch, like especially Georgia, because we have a lot of Georgia's TV, right? You never see the blow-offs, right? You never see, you know, the big match in the Omni, so you don't know how it goes. It just goes from 1 week. Oh, they're talking about the Omni when the Omni event happens, and then, you know, they're off and running to other feuds. So you never really see the blow-off, and you don't really see the blow-off in Florida. You don't really see the blow-offs in Crockett. You do see a little bit more of the blow-offs in World Class because a lot of their big events, they aired on television anyway. At this Texas Stadium shows, they would show matches from that. And in Memphis, you would see the matches from the Coliseum fairly often. So you would see kind of the big matches on regular television. Again, this is before the days of pay-per-view. They're not doing closed-circuit events like that until, you know, their first one was Final Conflict, which is 83. You know, they've done, you know, a couple, you know, Land Stampede had a closed-circuit. Showdown at Shea had closed-circuit. You get some big matches on the MSG house shows every once in a while. But when it comes to looking at the TV, these promotions, they're like, yeah, their promos are great, but there's just squash matches on TV. And that's why I never quite understood why people hated Black Saturday when WWF came in, because remember this, when the WWF took over Georgia, they brought a lot of guys who had recently worked in Georgia. Like Roddy Piper was a big star in Georgia. Paul Orndorff.
Yeah.
So it's like, to me, it had more to do with Gordon Solie than the quality of the wrestling matches. Because to be completely honest, and I know a lot of people don't want to hear it, all you're watching on Georgia TV is squash matches anyway. Squash matches and promos. And that's the same thing that they were doing in the WWF, is squash matches and promos. Especially on that TBS show. To me, I think it had more to do with Gordon Solie not being there than anything else. A lot of people will try to debate me on that, but I think I'm right on that. Because I don't really see necessarily, yes, it's a format change, and yeah, you're not having the high-quality promos that you would get from, the Tommy Rich, Ted DiBiase, Stan Hansen, Ole Anderson specifically. It wasn't like WWF was at least that far behind. And when you talk about, their expansion, because we're in the, 84 is, you're knee-deep in the expansion era here. Yeah. And you're looking at what they did in terms of what they did with some of the local TVs. They didn't change the local TV. When they went to St. Louis, they were still wrestling at the Chase, but with WWF guys. It was still the Maple Leaf Wrestling in Toronto with WWF guys. It was still, World Championship Wrestling with WWF guys. They wouldn't really turn those into their, their syndicated programs until a little bit later. But when they first came in, and those are weekly towns, don't forget that. So you got to keep kind of the normal television in there. So I think that was a smart move by Vince and company to kind of keep the local shows for a while before he transitioned to the more, plain Jane WWF syndication package that they would bring out. But, it's funny. It's like they didn't know how to compete with that. Like I always say, the NWA wasn't built to take on a national promotion like that, where Vince is coming at everyone from all sides, spending a lot of money, but he's coming after everybody. He's not focused in just one area. Right off the bat, he goes into Los Angeles. Right off the bat, he goes right into Minneapolis with Hulk Hogan, Jesse Ventura, and Mean Gene Okerlund. You know what I mean? They would try to go into Mid-South with Mid-South guys. They would go to Georgia with Georgia guys, which was a smart play. He's taking these promotions, top stars, and trying to run their territories there all at the same time. And everyone was so taken aback by it that they really could not get their bearings to compete. Now, obviously, AWA post-Hogan is still doing relatively well because they got the Road Warriors. World Class is still Von Erichs and Freebirds all the way.
Yeah.
Crockett is doing all kinds of goofy shit. Crockett has Flair as a babyface for the entire year of 1984. And almost the entire year of 1985 until he makes the turn with the Horsemen. But Flair is a heel everywhere else he goes. But not in Crockett. So, to me, 1984 is probably... 1983 is more fascinating, but I think 1984 is really fascinating. I still have to get the book, The Death of the Territories. It's on my Amazon wish list to get, so I really want to get some of the inside scoop. I really want to know about how they acquired, their TVs, because we've always been led to believe that they just walked in with a check. Oh, we'll give you $1,500 a week if you take off the established promotions television and give us their TV slots. To that being said, how come they didn't have these guys under contract? So it's very, very strange to me. Again, I don't know how necessarily television worked back then. So, Matt, on the latest episode of Retro Wrestling Rewind, we took a look at Halloween Havoc 1995. To me, what's memorable about that particular show, it had man versus man, machine versus machine. You had Hulk Hogan taking on the Giant and a monster truck sumo match. And then the Giant fell off the top of the Cobalt Hall and comes. That's always and he comes back to win the title via disqualification. It's also the debut of the Yeti, which is ridiculous. I know I am a Dungeon of Doom apologist. I'm aware of that. I don't think they're as bad as everyone thinks they are. If you go back and watch those shows again, your 1995 pre-Nitro, and in some cases after Nitro, WCW, those shows are a lot of fun. They're not overly serious. Yes, the Dungeon of Doom is kind of corny, and especially by the time you get to the mid-90s. But the question is, what the fuck do you do with Hogan anyway? Like, what do you do with him? You have a past his prime Hulk Hogan, right? But he draws, right? And the fact of the matter is, and what some people don't want to realize, no matter how bad they think the Dungeon of Doom was, it worked. It worked. They did tremendous buy rates. They're competing and in some cases beating the WWF in ratings. I mean, that goes to show you how bad WWF was in 1995. But they're almost neck and neck in terms of buy rates on pay-per-view, and they're trading, ratings victories in terms of Nitro and Raw anyway. So, for me, the Dungeon of Doom is, let's make Hulk Hogan very happy and have him beat 96 guys at Uncensored. So when we ask him to do some kabuki shit like turn heel and join the NWO, he's more likely to do stuff like that because at that point he trusted Bischoff, he trusted Kevin Sullivan, and they were off and running to the races. And you saw how that show changed once the NWO debuted. And it kind of killed pushes for guys like Glacier and Dungeon of Doom and Hugh Morris and whoever they had, plans for. It kind of killed all those guys' pushes, Alex Wright. But, the NWO was such a hot commodity and they sold so many T-shirts and their ratings were sky high that it couldn't be denied. So, to me, if it wasn't for the Dungeon of Doom, you wouldn't have gotten the NWO. I mean, that's how it is. So Matt, what are your thoughts on the Dungeon of Doom in general and mid-90s WCW?
Well, it was a lot of bad things in mid-90s WCW. There was some good stuff too, but I really feel that the Dungeon of Doom was one of the last that I can think of getting a main stage push for a heel stable that wasn't either cool or I'm trying to think of trying to write to censor when they were.
Yeah, Right to Censor was 2000.
Yeah, but they weren't like a collection of misfit bad guys.
They were all Hogan opponents from the past too, which is really cool.
Right, and that's the thing is it was kind of a second shot type thing, which I think can work well. They
brought in all Earthquake, and they brought in they already had Ming. And they brought back Kamala, and then Vader joined for a second, but then he turned on them. And then you had the Giant, which is supposed to be the son of Andre the Giant. And then you had the Zodiac Man, which was Brutus Beefcake, who had feuding, he got a Starrcade main event in Starrcade 94. So just keep that in mind. Brutus Beefcake in the main event of Starrcade. Ooh. But, it was a new version of Kevin Sullivan's Army of Darkness. Just with, a PG version of it. You know what I mean? With less of the devil talk and the scantily clad women that Kevin Sullivan had in Florida. But, it worked. I mean, they brought back Zeus. They had Z Gangster, which is ridiculous. And, the Yeti was supposed to be Giant Gonzalez. Or Elegante, if you want to be a jerk about it. But he had visa problems and had to go back to Argentina. So they had to have Ron Reese do it. And then the Yeti became a giant ninja because Eric Bischoff loves fucking Mortal Kombat. I'll tell you that much.
Does he really?
You had the giant guy who looked like Scorpion, and then you had Glacier, who was clearly a ripoff of Sub-Zero.
Yeah.
And then you had Mortis, and then you had Wrath, and that whole blood runs cold, deal, could have probably done big business if they didn't get the NWO. It probably would have done well as more guys for Hogan to face. And these guys are fresh guys, like Brian Clark, who was Atom Bomb, is now Wrath. You have Mortis, that's Chris Kanyon. They could have done some business there with Hogan. And to me, at that point of Hogan's career, I would have called it the Undertaker spot, where Hogan's now just fighting all kinds of monsters and ghouls. You know what I mean? The Undertaker did. The Undertaker fought, starting from Nails, Berserker, Giant Gonzalez, Kamala, all these big King Kong Bundy, a lot of these guys. And that was his spot for a long time. I mean, they probably should have put the belt on Sting during the whole Dungeon of Doom stuff. But, the belt was still on Hogan because, he had creative control. So that doesn't work for me, brother. Are you happy to see him back in the WWF?
Oh, that wonderful show, Crown Jewel. Yeah. Well, I remember hearing last minute that he was going to be in there and making an appearance. But again, he was host, and he basically just showed up, waved the crowd, did some posing, and left.
Yeah. Do you think it was an attempt to hey, listen, we're getting a lot of bad PR because of this, so let's combine the bad PR together and kind of take it all in one shot instead of having Hogan come out on a random Raw?
Yeah, I mean it's definitely where we have. I'm trying to think of the way to put this. It's kind of like you're tearing the Band-Aid off. You're going to get a bunch of bad PR. You may as well, it's going to get. And essentially it did. It got lost in the shuffle.
It did.
There was so much going on. The Shane McMahon, I still believe, I was talking to one of the guys at work about this, I believe that his whole best in the world thing was him taking the bullet for most of the other guys.
I agree.
Because if somebody ended up with that trophy, there's a promo about it every week and talk about being best in the world, this week can kind of fade out, although I was surprised that they put Shane on the Survivor Series team.
We talked about it last year's Survivor Series.
Yeah.
It's never fucking ending with him. Please stop. You're going to get hurt really bad.
Here's a fun fact. When I wrote one of my wrestling scripts years ago, the idea of the story is that the son of the Vince McMahon son character is essentially being talked out of becoming a pro wrestler by this veteran who's had a really hellish experience. And he's kind of sharing his memories. And the end of the story, the idea is that instead of the veteran becoming the masked wrestler, savior type character, the son does it.
Yeah.
And I keep thinking to myself, this is totally what Shane's doing. He's just like, fuck it, I'm going to wrestle, And in a way, I get it, because his name has drawing power. Maybe they're thinking ratings-wise, this will help the ratings.
It hasn't done anything for the ratings. The ratings haven't fucking changed.
Well, that's the thing. The ratings have been tanking. And I think part of the problem is if you look at Monday Night Raw, kind of get off on a side topic.
It's too long.
It's too long, but what you also have a problem of, before Roman Reigns had his speech and talked about going out for the leukemia, you would have a show with 3 hours and 5 matches involving the same 7 people.
Yeah.
And you're not doing anything to build up people. They just show up. Have more vignettes. Have character development. Have things build. And I think the little tournament kind of shows that people like to see what's going to go on and make it worthwhile. I will say this. I don't know if we're jumping ahead in topics or not, but the whole Miz-Daniel Bryan partnership, if you watched on SmackDown or not, really worked for me. I really liked it. I thought Miz really...
Heyman booked that. He likes to do that.
And that's
a Heyman thing.
Yeah, well, it works because Miz is showing his acting chops in this little process. And, I think that the more they do things like this, it kind of builds... Because, for example... Here's what you want to set up. I'm not going to totally predict everything, but if you want to have this work out long term, at Survivor Series, let's say you have Maurice at ringside, and all right, so let's say at Survivor Series, Maurice is at ringside for Miz. She goes down in a heap, and we kind of have a replay of the Randy Savage Hulk Hogan thing where Daniel helps her. And then later on, Daniel is getting attacked by somebody, and Miz saves him. And then you have Miz being like, you know what? You did right by me, I'll do right by you. You have kind of that burgeoning friendship. And then you can have it so they set up and they're going for the tag titles. And have them on a big stage like WrestleMania, going for the tag titles, and then Miz turns on him. Or maybe I would say probably Miz turns on him, would be better sell than other way around. Because, not saying you have to have a replay of Hogan Savage, obviously, but you can use that relationship and the dynamics of it to really sell a story. And that's the thing that's missing in so much of it. I think, I watched Raw, I watched SmackDown. SmackDown is a much more digestible show, but it's not just because of the time, it's because they do a better job packaging the bits and making the matches count. It really, I think it's a much better show. So I don't know, I just, to get off a little ahead of topic there. But I really feel that, Raw just doesn't offer as much. I will say, however, to the credit of Seth Rollins, he gave a very strong promo this week. I mean, it still ended with him getting DDT'd and no answers yet, but that's just what we come to expect. I keep picturing like Dean being on like Jeopardy or something, or Family Feud. What do you have to say? Hits the buzzer. Beep. What's your answer? DDT. Oh my God. Just because that's be fun to watch, but that's just me.
Man, I dig it, man. So I did want to take a couple moments out to talk about Collision in Korea, because it has some stark similarities with Crown Jewel, and there's some differences, obviously. So Collision in Korea took place on April 28th and April 29th of 1995 from the Mayday Stadium in North Korea. This was a joint event between New Japan Pro Wrestling and WCW. I think a couple things that really stand out right off the bat. Number one is that WCW going to North Korea? Ugh. Jesus Christ. I understand that this is more of a New Japan event than a World Championship Wrestling event, but Bischoff and crew were there, and from what I understand, Eric Bischoff did not get permission to go there. He just I got some business in North Korea, see you guys later. And then took a bunch of wrestlers over to North Korea to work, including Ric Flair. Again, this is the first ever pay-per-view from a North American wrestling promotion to be held in North Korea, and it currently holds the record for the largest combined attendance. On day one, they had 165,000 people there. On day two, it had 190,000 people there.
Wow.
Yes, and they were forced to go there. Most of the crowd didn't know what professional wrestling was because they were made to go there by the government.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
Right.
A couple of things that are notable that I don't really hear a whole lot of people talking about. That Scott Norton was arrested for saying, for speaking ill of the North Korean government. A lot of bad things could have happened to him, but he was able to escape the country. In addition, the North Korean government requested Ric Flair to have an anti-United States speech. So Ric Flair goes up to make his speech, and he does not denounce the United States, to his credits, and he also had to escape the country. I mean, they probably weren't going to do anything to them anyway, but that's some scary shit. Like, they will kill you over there.
Yeah.
For some stuff like that. So, I think, and looking back in hindsight, I don't think it was necessarily a good move to bring your American wrestlers over to North Korea.
No.
Because something bad could have really fucking happened over there. The card is as follows. You had Chris Benoit, who defeated Too Cold Scorpio, which is a fantastic match. You have Yuji Nagata, who took on Ichiwawa in a singles match. You had Masa Chono and Hiro Saito, who defeated El Samurai and Tadeya Yoshida. Bull Nakano and Akira Hokuto defeated Manami Toyota and Mariko Yoshida. Shinja Hashimoto fought Scott Norton to a time limit draw, and that was a singles match for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. Road Warrior Hawk defeated Yasuda in a singles match. The Steiner Brothers defeated Hiroshi Hase and Kensuke Sasaki, and Antonio Inoki defeated Ric Flair. So a couple of things I want to point out here. Number one, this was on American pay-per-view, not available on the WWE Network, though. So for those of who have it, we have it. But it was, in terms of commentary, it was Eric Bischoff, Mike Tenay, and Kazuya Ishikaka.
Oh, boy.
Better known as Sonny Ono.
Oh.
Yeah. And who doesn't love Sonny Ono? But again, there's some differences between this and Saudi Arabia. I guess first and foremost, Saudi Arabia is an ally of the United States, I guess officially.
Yeah.
Which is off-putting all on its own, I guess. North Korea, not an ally of the United States. So I find that real interesting that Bischoff and the team over in New Japan, Inoki, was able to get this done. There's some notable absences here. You don't see Hulk Hogan on this show. That's for sure. I don't see Randy Savage on the show, but I thought he was there. I want to say he was there, but he's not on the official results. So
Yeah. There's no footage of this?
There is footage.
Okay.
It was released on pay-per-view in America. So there's no Sting on this show. So there's a couple of things to keep in mind here. So in terms of which one was a better idea or which one is more offensive, this show kind of got swept underneath the rug because it was 1995 and Twitter wasn't a thing. But I think if this if the WWE tried to go to North Korea, they would fucking have hell to pay.
Right.
They couldn't get that done today. No fucking way. Regardless of how much money. Both of them were asked to do statewide propaganda. WWE did their propaganda. And there was attempts to make the American wrestlers do pro-North Korea propaganda, but they were able to kind of avoid that. In addition, Muhammad Ali was in attendance for this show, by the way. So, I'll keep that in mind. And not for nothing, I'm looking at show chronology here. There was another show called the World Wrestling Peace Festival, which was in the LA Sports Arena in Los Angeles, California. And it had it was a show that was comprised of New Japan Pro Wrestling, WCW, the NWA, and AAA and CMML all participated in this event.
Wow.
Yeah, so the match results for this: Sergeant Craig Pitbull Pittman, who defeated KGB, Jim Neidhart defeated Bobby Bradley Jr., Akira Hokuto and Lady Apache defeated Bull Nakano and Nefertali, Chris Benoit defeated Alex Wright, Rey Mysterio Jr. and Ultimo Dragon defeated Heavy Metal and Psychosis, Lex Luger defeated Masa Saito, Negro Casas defeated El Hijo de Santo, Alanis, Dos Cara, and Hector Gaza defeated Silver King, Dr. Wagner, and Grand Marcus Jr. Tatsuma Fujinami defeated the Black Cat. Perro Aguayo and La Parca defeated Pararoff Jr. and Cybernetico. Conan defeated Chris Jericho and Bam Bam Bigelow in a triangle match. Juice and Thunder Liger defeated Great Sasuke. The Giant defeated Sting, and that was a match for the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. And Antonio Inoki, with Dan Severn, defeated Fujiwara and Olev Tarkov. So that's something. I guess there's a lot of Mexican wrestlers on the show because they're in Los Angeles. I'm assuming here. Unfortunately, they only did 5,964 people. That's a show I want to see, though. That seems interesting to me. That took place on June 1st, 1996. There was supposed to be a Brian Pillman, Terry Funk, Sabu match. But Pillman got in the car act, so he wasn't on the show. And Sabu was removed from the show because he was double booked for Big Japan Pro Wrestling on the same day.
Oh. How dare he?
But yeah, 6,000 people in LA. It's not good. That's probably why they never did it again. So what do you think? What do you think was more... I hate to use the word offensive, but what was more crazy to do? Collision of Korea or Crown Jewel?
Well, I think Collision of Korea was crazier to do in the sense of danger, whereas Crown Jewel was dangerous from the optics standpoint.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things that I think looking back, if things don't improve over there, and especially if they find out that they did the assassination, which it looks like they did, of this reporter, there's no polishing that up. That's a turd right there. So I mean, people are gonna have their opinions. I think the whole aspect of the women's, oh, look at Evolution and all this, but don't remember it for about 5 hours on Friday.
Yeah.
Like what?
Yeah, I feel it's very... It wouldn't be bad if they weren't pushing this, women's revolution agenda.
Right.
Like, it wouldn't have been as bad. It's still pretty, awful on its own. Although, like we said on this show, that's a lot of fucking money to leave on the table, too. That's a lot of fucking money, bro. So, I wouldn't want to be a person that had to make that decision.
I also think that they don't. They're in a position where they don't necessarily need that's money they can get, but they don't need that to thrive. Like they're not like their one source of income.
Right.
They're doing well enough on their own that
it's a tricky proposition, and we'll see if it hurts them down the road. This could be a turning point. Down the road, we'll see. We'll see how this plays out.
Yeah.
But curious nonetheless. All right, now it's time for our superstar spotlight. I want to talk about one of your all-time favorite Mats, the Nature Boy, Ric Flair.
Congratulate the world's heavyweight champion, Ric Flair. Congratulations, Bob.
Thank you, David. It's the greatest honor
Absolutely.
that I've ever achieved in any aspect of my life. And gentlemen, as anyone associated with wrestling knows, this is the key. This is the ultimate trophy. It's the most prestigious award in all of professional wrestling. I feel I worked hard for a number of years to achieve this. I'm not saying it was because of my tremendous skill or my ability or anything else that won it for me. It's one of those nights. It was my night. Things went my way, and now I'm the world champion. And on behalf of the people out there, on behalf of myself, on behalf of the people that have stood behind me, Crockett Promotions, etc., I will do my best to be a great world champion. I will do my best to be a great athlete, and I will do my best to show everyone out there that I deserve the recognition of being called the National Wrestling Alliance World's Heavyweight Wrestling Champion. Thank you very much.
Okay, Rick, thank you. David, great champion. He really is.
So, Matt, what are your overall thoughts on Ric Flair?
Well, after seeing the documentary, I feel bad. He had a very rough life. I read his book, too. I know the book was kind of, everything was... The documentary was very dark. And I think he didn't realize how hard he was on himself with his drinking and, just physical pain. And that makes you appreciate what he went through a lot more. I really always enjoyed his work. I grew up, in the Northeast, but I was a Ric Flair WCW fan, or NWA fan, I should say. So that was more my speed, and I enjoyed NWA wrestling because of him. I mean, there's so many things he was involved with, not just the Horseman, but the whole persona. He's getting into things. The way he carried himself, his matches.
NWA World Heavyweight Champion. We're going to hear right now some comments from the NWA World Heavyweight Champion, Ric Flair, regarding, his general well-being and upcoming title event.
They tell me that all over the country now, they're having a problem in the classroom. Because every male student has all of a sudden changed his course from thinking. The teachers say, what do you want to be when you get out of school? And for those that are physically fit enough to answer, they say, I want to be like Ric Flair. I want to be the world champion. I want to wear the finest clothes money can buy and the prettiest jewelry. I want to ride in the biggest cars, and I want to date the finest women alive. Oh, I want to be like Ric Flair so bad. I want to hold that 10 pounds of gold. I want to be the champion. Well, there's only one Ric Flair. I hate to disappoint all of you out there. There's only one Ric Flair. Learn to love it. Learn to believe it. Because that's the way it is. In Atlanta, Georgia. Dusty Rhodes, you know how embarrassing it is for me, one of the most gorgeous human beings on the face of this earth, to stand out here, tape on my head, stitches underneath, as a result of something you've done to me. You think about this long and hard, Rhodes. You may have been a world champion twice, and you may be the idol of all Atlanta, but brother, you are not the world champion. Now I am, and I command the respect. And this time, my friend, I won't take you as lightly as I did. We're going to be in that army again, brother. And you're going to answer to me. You're going to answer to me as no other wrestler ever has. Ric Flair, the living legend. Ric Flair, the world champion. Your world champion. And in the army, brother, I'm going to take it to you. And to you
me, Iron Face Flair. I've had enough. I'm sorry I tried.
Was a fan, so I think it was easy for me to enjoy his work.
Yeah, I think Flair, in terms of a worker, he was one of the guys who pushed the style forward. There's always a guy that will take the status quo and push it forward to the next level. So, like, in that era, it was, Steamboat and Flair, and then it was Tiger Mask and Dynamite. Those guys really pushed the styles from, like, oh, I'm going to sit, in a headlock for 30 minutes until, the more of the Southern Texas style wrestling that we would all grow to love. And Flair was very responsible for that. I mean, people used to give Flair shit back in his day for doing too much. He's killing the business, which is something that we hear a lot today about some of the young guys, that they're killing the business. And Flair got that too. You'll never see Ric Flair saying, oh, those guys are killing the business, because he used to be one of those guys.
Right.
You know what I mean? So,
And I've always heard that the Florida women were truly some of the loveliest creatures on the face of this earth. And naturally, when I took Florida by storm, when I became the world champion, keeping the women away became a real task. Only a chosen few are allowed to accompany the man. Now, Gordon, I've brought one of the real beauties, a real Tallahassee lassie with me today. A woman, darling, show me a little bit of what's going on in Florida. All Americans want to see what the Nature Boy does when he's not defending his 10 pounds of gold. And never let it be said, Gordon, that I won't share a little bit of whatever is mine. Gordon, a little kiss, darling. Let him know what he's in for, see?
Thank you.
Gordon, it's like this. What Ric Flair wants, Ric Flair gets. And today, the rumor goes around the country that Ric Flair might be afraid to wrestle Bruce Reed. That Bruce Reed might be the man to take his 10 pounds of gold from Ric Flair. That Bruce Reed might be considered #1 contender by the National Wrestling Alliance all over the world. Well, today, Bruce Reed, there's two men standing in that ring over there that are as bad as any two wrestlers there are in the world today. They know how to get down, they know how to get real dirty, and they know the value of $1. And they also know what $10,000 can do. So today, Reed, you're going to have your choice. And to save face, because you're a real big deal, to save face, you're going to have to walk out here, Reed, and you're going to have to wrestle one of them on earth. You know why? Because if you walk out that door, you won't be the man that you'd like all these people out here to think you are. We know you're not a man. We know you're a boy. Here he comes, Gordon, Mr. Big Stuff himself. What do you got to say there, partner? Take a look over in the ring, brother. Don't be looking at the Nature Boy. Don't be looking at her. Take a look in that ring.
Let me tell you something, Gordon Soley. This man must think I'm a fool to come out here, two dudes in the ring, for me to wrestle, him standing out here in the background with a $10,000 bounty on my head. He must think I'm a fool to come out here and do that, and come out here and do this way. But let me tell you something. I got a question for you, Mr. Flair.
Hey, do yourself a favor, boy. Don't ever make the mistake of putting your face across to mine when I'm standing here with one of my ladies. Much less standing here with my main man, Gordon Soley. Don't ever make the mistake. Now, I can tolerate a lot, but my woman doesn't like you. Tell him who the greatest of all time is. Tell him, darling.
Are you through?
Right.
Are you through?
No, I'm not.
Are you through? Just answer one question for me, Flair. Just how you gonna plan to get out of this building through me? Huh? You answer that.
You making a mistake of threatening me. You're trying to ask me how I'm
out of this.
Don't put your face in mine, boy.
Baby, let me tell you something. You don't think...
Ooh, wait a minute.
Hold it.
Oh, I don't believe that.
Don't you start nothing here, brother. Me and my lady don't want no trouble from you today, boy. No. Get him out of here, Solly. Get him out of here.
I'm aware of the fact that you wouldn't
You be looking at her like that. You be looking at her like that.
Wow, man, wait. the champion. Reed got Ric Flair. Flair trying to make it to the ring. I never thought I'd see that. Wait a second. He's got Flair. He's been carrying David Von Erich trying to get Flair into the ring. And Reed. Wait a second. Reed is he's got a piece of the champion's clothes, but and Reed is coming in there. Terry Von Erich after him, and now David Von Erich and Butch Reed has disseminated both of those. And Butch Reed now battling it out. He's got the champion Ric Flair, and Flair. Well, Reed is tearing Flair apart. Butch Reed is absolutely tearing Ric Flair, the NWA World Heavyweight Champion, apart here. Well, he goaded Reed to a point of, in my opinion, of no return here. But he's out to get him off. He's out to take everything he's got away from him. And I mean, take it all away. And it is, he's got him pressed over his head. Butch Reed has him pressed over his head. Wow! He's just threw the champion out of the ring on top of David Von Erich and Terry Von Erich and Butch Reed. I never thought I'd see the champion hiding behind a woman. But Butch Reed has demolished the champion's clothing and the champion's pride. That's the most humiliating thing that ever could happen. Well, they're trying to get things restored here, trying to get some order. We'll be back.
You know, Flair was, to me, like your prototypical pro wrestler. If you're going to make a pro wrestler, you know, from scrap parts, you know, you're gonna want to have a guy to be able to work. You want to have a guy that's able to talk, and you want to have a guy that has a larger than life persona. And he hit all three.
Who has done it all, and I'm talking about from amateur wrestling, football at the University of Minnesota, demolition derbies, you name it. He's been there. The NWA World Heavyweight Champion, Ric Flair.
That's right, and always done it better than any other human being. Whatever I wanted in life was mine, because I said so. And when I took this, the World Heavyweight Championship from Dusty Rhodes, I beat every bit of competition from Tommy Rich to the Funks to the Briscoes to Bob Backlund. And speaking of Bob Backlund, and speaking of New York, can you imagine there was some question around the country as to whether or not Ric Flair, the world champion, would have any trouble with competition from New York? They sent down their best to the Omni, to Atlanta, where if it doesn't happen in professional wrestling, if it doesn't happen in the Omni, it doesn't happen in professional wrestling. You know that, and I know it. The finest stars in the wrestling world filtrate through Georgia and the Omni and all through the NWA. So New York, whenever you think you got somebody else that the world champion can't handle, send them down. Or if you're ready to pay the price, and I don't come cheap. You know, it cost me about $5,000 to get that Learjet started. I'll fly right into New York City, and I'll walk right into Madison Square Garden anytime they're ready. Until then, Ric Flair will remain the finest and the greatest world champion of them all.
Let me ask you this, Mr. Flair, and I can certainly understand your feelings, but obviously, I would say right now in this area, there's some of the greatest competition in the world.
No doubt about it. Great competition. Here's one of them right now. You got something to say, sweetheart? This is my interview, brother.
I got something to say. You know, going a little bit, overheard what he said. He's beaten everybody around the country, around New York. That's very true, Rick. You have beaten everybody. But you know, last time in the Omni, I happened to beat a man from New York also. His name was Jimmy Snuka. You've beaten a lot of people, but you have yet to beat me.
Well, let me tell you something, brother. Right here, baby. I can see that you're very conscientious. You got some big muscles and a big bad body. But in a few hours, we'll find out if you're man enough to tackle the world champion.
That's right.
We'll be back.
Right.
So he, amazing worker. If there was one guy, if I could only won one wrestler's matches for the rest of my life, it'd probably be Ric Flair. Due to the quantity and the amount of different stars that he did face throughout his career. Ric Flair was trained by Vern Gagne in 1971. He made his debut in 1972 in Rice Lake, Wisconsin, battling George Scrap-outing Gadatsky in a 10-minute draw.
Ric Flair, you got your chance at the Russian Bear.
Right here, Toronto, June 14th. Koloff, I've stood in line, I've waited, I've listened to you insult me. I've listened to Piper stand all over this country in front of every TV monitor and tell the world he wouldn't wrestle me again for that U.S. championship. And that Koloff had run me out of wrestling. Well, Koloff, brother, the tables were turned because Frank Tunney put it together right here in Toronto, one of the wrestling capitals of the world. Toronto, Canada. Koloff, you and I, the match is made, nowhere to go except head up with the Nature Boy. You know Koloff, just like every wrestling fan in this world knows, that Ric Flair doesn't mind bleeding. He doesn't mind sweating. He doesn't mind paying the price. As long as in the end run, he's got a chance to get some licks in himself. And this time, my friend, if you want to be a man, if you want to be recognized as the great Russian Bear, you're going to have to walk down that ramp, you're going to have to get in the ring, and you're going to have to face the Nature Boy head up. I'm talking about you and I, Koloff.
He was Ric Flair in the AWA, and he did have matches with Dusty Rhodes and Chris Taylor and Andre the Giant, Larry Hennig, and Wahoo McDaniel. In 1974, Flair left the NWA for Jim Crockett Promotions, and it was soon after that he captured his first singles title when he beat Paul Jones.
Number one Paul Jones. For the Mid-Atlantic TV Championship. In 1975, he did have that plane crash in North Carolina that killed the pilot and paralyzed Johnny Valentine. And Ric Flair broke his back in 3 places. And at the age of 26, doctors told him he would never wrestle again. But he did come back in 8 months. And he resumed his feud with Wahoo McDaniel in February 1976. The crash did force Flair to change his style from a brawling style to more of a Nature Boy style, I guess you would call it.
Front of the line, the back of the line, but gradually, because I was persistent and because I was more man than the other wrestler alive, this became mine. Along with this came the $500 suit, the $100 ties, the lizard shoes, the Rolex watches, the diamonds, the gold, everything that Ric Flair has ever wanted and ever represented is mine now because I'm the World Heavyweight Champion. And Tony Atlas, I don't mean to degrade you as a man, but you aren't in the class. You haven't got the prestige. Sure, you're a great athlete, great body, an average wrestler, but you don't have what it takes to be in the ring with me when it comes to the World Heavyweight title.
Well, I think you've made your point abundantly clear, and
Excuse me, Mr. Caviar, but I understand you was out here talking about me, and I want to understand exactly what you were saying about me.
Well, it's going to take a long time. So I'm going to say it real
How come you can't give me a title shot?
First of all, let's make one thing clear. When they allot me time on World Championship Wrestling, nobody but Gordon Soley and myself stand here. Now, I'm talking to you, boy. You listen to me. See what I'm telling you? First of all, you can't come out here wearing this honky shirt and those funky pants and have your hair all greased up and try and tell me what to do. I'm the greatest wrestler alive. Now listen to me, boy. I'm talking to you. I'm the greatest wrestler alive today. And you get yourself straight, brother. You understand what I'm telling you? You get yourself straight. I'm telling you, hey, don't start shaking for me, brother. I'll take off these sunglasses and I'll drop you like a bad habit. I'm telling you, I'll put my hands anywhere I want to. You understand what I'm telling you? I'll put my hands anywhere I want to.
Ross Hurd. Wait a minute. Wait a second. Ross sir, he has called his hand, and I mean he has called his hand. And Ric Flair, Pontiac has removed his referee. Ric Flair up on that ring apron, and holy brother. I have seen people enraged in my life.
You think he's enraged? Let me tell you something, John Stoller. I've picked the men from head to toe, and there's not a man alive, much but a man like him, that lays their hands on me. And brother, when we get together, and you know what I'm talking about, you're not only going to deal with the world champion, you're going to deal with Ric Flair on a very personal level.
Yeah. Please, Mr. Flair. Let's not have any more of that. And I'll tell you what, we've got a very important message upcoming right now. Let's take a look.
I want to make one point very clear now. You see, when you put me in a situation like this, you're coming to me the way I like it done, right? You want to tell me back? Well, I'll tell you what. The title is on the line. Call NWA. Call Georgia Championship Wrestling. The title is on the line. You know why? Because you see, when I beat someone like you in a non-title match, nobody hears about it. But the title is on the line now. So when I beat you, when I hurt you, when I humiliate you, the whole wrestling world, is gonna know about it. You want a title match? You low life. You know what, I can't talk about you personally, brother, but you are as low a human specimen as I ever.
Flair won the NWA United States Heavyweight Championship when he defeated Bobo Brazil on July 29th, 1977. Over the next 3 years, he held it 5 times while feuding with the likes of Ricky Steamboat, Roddy Piper, Mr. Wrestling, Jimmy Snuka, and Greg Valentine.
I'm almost at a loss for words here, but a very special announcement there, David, as you said, because you want to do it, David, right here. I think he wants to do it. You want to do it. Roddy Piper.
Some very disheartening news. Ladies and gentlemen, King Richard, the legend, is dead. And I'm the one that finished him off. You see, all this time, I've been sitting here listening to Ric Flair talking about me, telling how skinny I am, how my skinny little arms are, and he goes, I get me back, all of a sudden, I don't hear no, I don't see nobody walking around anymore. All of a sudden, I don't see nobody having no fun anymore from Ric Flair. And you want to know why? Check it out. This is why, you see, I am the new United States champion. Now, hold on. I have Ric Flair. You see, I know you're out there on the monitor. The big tears in your eyes. Your nose is running. He's probably drowning from the size of his nose running. I have a little present for you, Ric Flair. So I'd like you to come on out here because you got nothing anyway. I thought out of the goodness, just the mercy of my heart, I thought I would wrap this little present up for you, seeing as I am the champion, and I would give you this tiny present. Because after all, you said I was a woman, and I would like to know how did it feel to get beaten by a woman, Flair? You see, the problem is... here comes here comes the Slim Whitman of wrestling. Listen, Mr. Flair, I do not want any trouble out of you two, you understand? No. All right, we're gonna give Rick another microphone.
First of all, let me say one thing. I'm a professional athlete. You've known me for a long time. And any plans I have for him will take place right over there in some arena in either the United States or Canada. Well, let me tell you something. Let me tell you something, Mr. Ric Flair, the May West of wrestling. I have a little something for you here, you see. I have a little present just to show you that I'm really a wonderful guy. Here's just a little something that I have had for a long time that I know you could never have, and I would just like you to have it. Just a little something from me to you, Mr. Flair, and it really is my pleasure. Open it. Expecting to open it? Of course I expected it. I have no guts. Go ahead and open it. I know. You see, it's just something that I've tried for a long time, and I know, Rick, that you never could have one, and I would like you to have one. Because I mean, I just like Santa Claus. There it is. I'm going to give him the NWA TV belt because you wouldn't get it no other way. So that's yours, and this is mine. Oh, I'm a genius. He's very fine with me. First of all, Piper, I don't think you realize, you never realized it while you had it, you never realize it now. It's one of the most prestigious belts in the National Wrestling Alliance. And Ric Flair, whether a punk like you knows it or not, doesn't wear anything he doesn't win. So I'll set this right here. If I'm fortunate enough to win it someday, then I'll wear it. Now, I got a present for you, Piper. First of all, let me preface this by saying the reason I was back there tonight is because when you've been the U.S. champion, when you've been around the world, don't come over here, and you can afford to wear a $500 suit and now little rented tuxedos, you can buy time on a TV show. So I went to his brother, and I bought time on this TV show, brother. What for? What did you buy? To show the film of what you did to me in Gordon Arena Tuesday night. Now, you brought me a gift, I brought you a gift. You recognize this, Bob Connell? You feel that, Bob Connell? What is that? I never seen that before. I'll tell you what that is. This is a little object that my little friend had time to wrap tape around. It's solid metal. It's something you had time to smack me in the mouth with and then throw into the crowd at Thornton Arena. That's a lie. And I want to thank the young gentleman that took the time to run out the back of Thornton Arena and pick this up and bring it over to Elliot Murney. That's a lie. I'm also a promoter. That's a lie. I don't care if it's a lie or not. That's a lie. You keep your mouth shut. You know what you did. I said, don't worry, I understand. You keep your mouth shut. Now I'm going to tell you something. I don't wear little tuxedos, and I don't run around in a skirt. I'm a man, and I've always been a man. And, brother, when it comes to wrapping these up, Ric Flair's wrap for me. That brother, not with you, man. So you did right. Because, my friend, just as sure if I can take a $400 sports coat and tear it up, I'm going to drive you up and spit you out in the promoter's building that can bring you and me in the same ring. Hey, one more thing. He said he didn't hear me doing this. Well, listen. Woo! You can go I don't want that. I've never seen that before in my life, that damn thing. I'll tell you something. You think you can do things? Well, I'll show you what. I ain't stupid enough. Hey, I ain't stupid enough to rip something up. I'll tell you what, Flair. First of all, you're nothing but a liar, and you're nothing but a coward because I beat you in the middle of the ring, 1, 2, 3, by myself. So let me tell you something, brother. You come out here talking real talk, right? Well, you want a showdown. Well, showdown, you bet, brother. But I ain't even saddled my pony yet.
At that point, he is calling himself the Nature Boy. And he actually wrestled the original Nature Boy, Buddy Rogers, in 1978. And with Ric Flair going over, so we sort of had the passing of the torch moment there.
Right.
In 1981, Flair beat Dusty Rhodes to win his first NWA World Heavyweight Championship. He did take an unsanctioned loss to Carlos Colon in Puerto Rico.
Yes.
You gotta love the Phantom title switches.
World Heavyweight Championship on 6 different occasions. Let's listen now to these videotape comments by Harley Race.
Woo! You even got me talking like Ric Flair. I almost walked out of the studio and I got a phone call, told me to come back here.
that Ric Flair had agreed to sign the match along with a little prodding from the National Wrestling Alliance to a 2 out of 3 fall match. Well, I'm going to be walking around going, woo, wee, and all this, because I've got exactly what I want. The only man that can fail me is me. And, buddy, I haven't failed myself very many times when it comes to wrestling. Flair and the Omni, I am going to be 7 times world's heavyweight champion. As the people well know, they saw you being salvaged, being drugged out of that ring with not enough left in you to even stand and call yourself a man. Well, in a 2 out of 3 fall match, you can get disqualified. That's 1 for me. In 3 falls, buddy, I'm going to put your shoulders on that mat, and they're going to count 1, 2, 3, and then Harley Race is going to stand up and go, woo! I am the man.
World Heavyweight Champion Ric Flair. 2 out of 3 falls, 1 hour time limit, the World Championship on the line against a man who's been there 6 times.
That's right. And against a man whose ego and pride is second only to mine. Now you talk about all the great ones that have been fortunate to hold this, and somehow Harley Race's name seemed to linger above all the rest. That was until I came along. Now, Race, we went round and round in the Army last time, brother, and yeah, I got hurt, and I bled, and I sweat, but I paid the price, and I'm back looking better than ever. You're looking at a man who's 120% champion. And tomorrow night, don't worry about me taking you to way out. You better plan on a long, long night, because tomorrow, sweetheart, you're going to be mine!
Harley Race did beat Flair in 1983 to win the championship, but Flair regained it at the first ever Starrcade in a steel cage match.
Happened to Ric Flair, we'd like to show you that right now.
All right, and fans, I tell you, I've seen this man a number of times. Rick, I've known you a long time. I've never seen Ric Flair like this. I've never seen you so outraged, so upset. I don't think Ric Flair has ever had a reason to be like this. You know, everybody wants to know why I'm nuts and why I want my hands on Ordnance Slater so bad. Well, I asked Crockett Promotions to play back a tape that took place several months ago. I want you to look at it. I want the fans to look at it. And I want Ordnance Slater, if they're around, to look at it. Then they'll know why.
All right, with me, ladies and gentlemen, Bob Orton Jr. Bob, a lot of guys have been thinking that you are around to protect them, to guard those backs, because Ric Flair, $25,000 on him. Got Jimmy Vance with Greg Kabuki, all those guys.
Exactly. Jake the Snake Roberts.
Yes.
I'll tell you, things are getting hot and heavy. I've had my problems with the Snake and Paul Jones. Roddy's had his problems with Greg Valentine. But the thing with Flair, Daddy, the $25,000 that Harley Race has put on his head, as far as I'm concerned, it can't be collected one man against Ric Flair. They're going to have to hit him from behind. And with people like Roddy Piper and myself standing back there for the insurance, I don't think anybody's going to get the job done. Rick, congratulations. We were just watching him right here just to make sure nobody runs into that. A $25,000 thing is bad, but one of these days, Race is going to have to put that belt on the line. And Ricky, good luck
you very much,
Daddy. I know you're going to win it.
With guys like Roddy Piper and Bob Orton behind me, I can't go wrong. We know the value of being a winner in this sport. We know the value of being on top. And we also learn and respect the value of having friends. And guys like Bob Orton and Roddy Piper, they don't grow on trees. Let me show you something here, Bob Caudle. Or sorry, David Crockett, excuse me, I get confused sometimes. But I'm excited about this. It's a big day for me. These are my children. Just a minute, Bob. I want you to hold my son right here. My son, David, and my daughter, Megan. Now, you want to know what nuts? Orton, you pretended to be my friend. You shook my hand, and you held my baby. Now, face it. Look at it the other way around. You know, if you were in my shoes, I'd have to pay the dues. So look at it this way. Don't you say nothing. Orton, Slater, the baseball bat. Me, you gotta walk the aisle, and you gotta face me. And brother, don't say that to me now. He touched my kid.
Rick,
say nothing up.
Sandy Scott, the NWA official right now, National Wrestling Alliance.
I know what you're gonna say.
I have told you
I heard
before,
the song
and I'm telling you now, you cannot take that belt into TV arenas or other arenas. You have to give it up. You can use your fist or your wrestling ability to get even with anybody you want, but not the bat.
Sandy Scott, I'm gonna tell you something right now. And I'm gonna tell you the Connell, and I'm gonna tell the whole wrestling world, and I want you to listen up. You can take the bat. Don't be pulling up out of my hand. But Orton Slater, I'm telling you, as I stand here on the face of this earth, I'm going to get you with or without the bat. And when I do, it's going to be the hospital, and that's a promise. Take the bat.
Fans, as we say, we've never seen Ric Flair and never seen him like that.
You had a couple other Phantom changes, too. You had Flair losing the title of the race in New Zealand and in Singapore. You also had the title switch for Zach Ferrando and the Dominican Republic, so you want to keep those in mind. At the first ever David Von Erich Memorial Parade of Champions at Texas Stadium, Ric Flair was pinned by Kerry Von Erich, but regained his title 18 days later in Japan. And at that point, he held on to it for 2 years, 2 months, and 2 days, eventually losing it to Dusty Rhodes in 1986 at the Great American Bash.
Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see with me right now, the World Heavyweight Champion, Ric Flair. Rick, we've all seen the tapes. We've all seen what you and the Andersons did to Dusty. We need to know an answer. Why did you do it?
You know your name is Ric Flair, and you don't mind if I take charge now, do you? Because there's a lot of people out there, David Crockett, that are holding their breath, waiting for the world champion to walk out on this worldwide televised program and put some style on it. You see, when you talk about professional wrestling, there's only one man whose name you can legitimately look at your neighbor, you can look at your daughter, you can look at your wife, or you can look in the mirror. But when you talk about the best, you're only talking about one. This is it. The World Heavyweight Championship. Woo! As I've said so many times before, custom made. Ole Castine, Ralph Lauren, that's what Ric Flair's all about. You see, I'm going to ride in that big Mercedes, and I'm going to live on that big house, and I'm going to woo all the good-looking women as long as I am the number one man, the World Heavyweight Champion. And I don't care if it's Baltimore, Philadelphia, Charlotte, North Carolina, Greensboro, L.A., Chicago. You know, when my name's on the marquee, right alongside Tully Blanchard, the U.S. champion, right along Ole and Arn Anderson, the National Tag Team champions, you know you're styling and profiling because you're talking about winners. You're talking about men that walk that, and can talk that talk. Woo!
In late 85, Flair started to team with Arn and Ole Anderson. At that point, they started calling Ric Flair their cousin, which is weird. Because Flair's from Minnesota, and so is Ole. Arn is from Rome, Georgia, so
Right.
At that point, they started establishing the Four Horsemen, especially when they did the big turn on Dusty Rhodes. So they would go off and attack Dusty Rhodes, Magnum TA, and that son of a bitch, Sam Houston. So, you had the original Four Horsemen, which was Arn Anderson, Ole Anderson, Ric Flair, Tully Blanchard, and J.J. Dillon. In 1986, Ric Flair got the big gold belts, which is awesome. It's still my favorite belt of all time. I don't know about everyone else's. The big gold is that and the Winged Eagle are my belts.
All right.
Unfortunately for Flair, he lost the NWA World Heavyweight Championship in Detroit to Ron Garvin on September 25th, 1987. Garvin held the belt for 2 months before losing it to Flair on November 26, 1987 at WCW's first pay-per-view event, Starrcade in Chicago. Now, Ron Garvin has always said that in the 2 months that he held the title that the reason why it wasn't successful is because Dusty Rhodes booked him like shit or just kept him off the cards altogether. Which he has a case. If you go back and look at the match results, he has a case there. Don't forget that, there was a bunch of other guys rumored to getting that belt at that point. Most notably Barry Windham, but apparently he turned it down. And Ricky Morton also turned it down because he didn't want to have the 2-month title reign because he didn't want to be like Tommy Rich.
Wow. I think Barry would have said yeah.
Oh, Barry does get the belt later on, though, but I don't think that really counts.
Yeah.
In early '88, Sting and Ric Flair fought to a 45-minute time limit draw at the Class Champions, the first ever Class Champions. February 1989, at the Chi-Town Rumble, Ricky Steamboat pinned Flair to win the NWA World Title, and that's when you had the trilogy of those 5-star matches, which are fucking fantastic.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen those matches, go out of your way to go see those, please. When Flair did win back the NWA World Title, he was attacked by Terry Funk, and he was pile-driven on a table. That whole segment is fucking insane.
That's a great
Funk. Oh my god, it's amazing.
How about a title shot, Rick? How about a match?
Flair said something to the effect of like, "Hey, listen, Terry, you were a great wrestler in your time, but you've been hanging out in Hollywood with Sylvester Stallone while I've been wrestling around the world as the World Heavyweight Champion." It's like, ooh. At the March 21st, 1991, Tatsuma Fujinami defeated Ric Flair in Tokyo for at the WCW New Japan Super Show. While the NWA recognizes Fujinami as their new champion, WCW did not because Fujinami had backdropped Flair over the top rope in violation of WCW rules. May 19th, 1991, Ric Flair defeated Tatsuma Fujinami at Super Bowl I to regain the NWA World Heavyweight Championship and retain the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. That whole scenario with the names and the NWA and the WCW, it was fucking weird.
Yeah.
Stupid. I didn't mention that Ric Flair, July 7, 1990, dropped the belt to Sting at the Great American Bash. After being unmasked as the Black Scorpion at Starrcade 90, Flair regained the title from Sting on January 11th, 1991, which was a show at the Meadowland. By the summer of 1991, Ric Flair grew frustrated with Jim Herd and WCW. And 2 weeks before the Great American Bash, which he was promoted for, Jim Herd had fired him and vacated the WCW World Heavyweight Championship, which led to a really awful pay-per-view and a really crazy match between Lex Luger and Barry Windham.
Now's the time.
Yes, it was. Ric Flair left for the WWF, but he was still recognized as the NWA World Champion until September 8th when the title was officially vacated. Ric Flair signed with the WWF and in September 1991 began appearing on television with the big gold belt, calling himself the real world champion. He was led by his financial advisor Bobby Heenan and his executive consultant Mr. Perfect. So, Flair would go off and challenge Roddy Piper and Hulk Hogan. He would have a household feud with both men. So you can see those matches every once in a while. The Hogan-Flair matches are actually really good. I really enjoyed their house show matches, and too bad we never got that on pay-per-view. At Survivor Series, Flair wrestled a team that was led by Roddy Piper and helped The Undertaker to defeat Hulk Hogan for the WWF World Heavyweight Championship. After that, the WWF Championship was vacated, and at Royal Rumble 92, Ric Flair won the Rumble to win the WWF Championship. He went on to lose the belt to Randy Savage at WrestleMania 8. It was weird because he went to that SummerSlam that year, but he was at the show and he was involved in the main event, but he didn't wrestle on the show, which is disappointing. At Survivor Series 92, Ric Flair teamed with Razor Ramon to take on Randy Savage and Mr. Perfect. It was supposed to be the Ultimate Warrior, but he got fired again.
Get fired again.
Ric Flair did appear at the Royal Rumble, and then the night right after the Royal Rumble, he loses a loser leave town match, or loses leave WWF match to Mr. Perfect on Monday Night Raw. Ric Flair fulfilled his remaining house show commitments and made his last appearance on February 10th, 1993 before returning to WCW. When he came back in February 1993, because of the no-compete clause in his contract, he was unable to wrestle, but he hosted a short-lived television talk show called Flair for the Gold.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah. That's where the Shockmaster shenanigans happened.
Oh, yes.
Let's see. Ric Flair regained the NWA World Heavyweight Championship for a 10th time by defeating Barry Windham at Beach Blast. This is right before WCW left the NWA. At Fall Brawl, he lost the title, but it was called the WCW International World Championship to Ravage and Rick Rude, which is an underrated match. Everyone should go out of their way to see Rick Rude versus Ric Flair, so I thought it was really good. At Starrcade 1993, Flair defeated Vader to win the WCW World Heavyweight Championship for the second time. In the spring of 1994, he had a rivalry with Ricky Steamboat, and they went back and forth with a couple of matches, and they held up the belt, which was really good. I really enjoyed those matches. I really did enjoy pre-Hogan WCW in 1994. I thought it was really good.
Yeah.
At the Clash of the Champions, 27, Flair defeated Sting in a unification match, merging the WCW International World Heavyweight Championship and the WCW Heavyweight Championship. And then by that point, he became a heel. So, because they did this thing what they did with Sherry, and Sherry came out with the first pain, and then Sherry attacked Sting, and it was shenanigans and what have you. And then he would eventually lose the belt to Hulk Hogan. They debuted Hulk Hogan at Bash at the Beach. So. Yeah, so that is Ric Flair part 1, because his career is fucking 4 years long, and at some point we will do Ric Flair part 2. But there's so much to cover here with Flair; it's hard to do in just one show. So we want to go too long. So, but yeah, Ric Flair, man, one hell of a career. I do think, to sum it up a little bit, that I think he retired the right way from the WWF when he did retire. But I think him coming back and wrestling again for TNA, I think that kind of tarnished his legacy overall.
Yeah.
Like, I wish he would just not come back. And, what's funny about Flair now, if you really think about it, with the documentaries and having Charlotte being a big star in the WWE, I think Ric Flair today is a bigger star than Ric Flair in 1985.
Oh, yeah.
His mainstream exposure, and they're having rap songs written about him, and he's doing commercials, and everyone knows what the woo means, and he's so much more popular today than he was when he wrestled in his prime. And I think a lot of it has to do with, obviously the exposure that he got from the WWE during his last run. I think that helps him. Also, because his daughter is a mainstay star for the WWE, that also helps him. And the fact that, he stays in the public eye pretty regularly. He had a health scare a little while back, which he kicked out of. Good for him. And, recently got married to Fifi. Remember Fifi from Flair?
Yes.
He married her eventually. They were friends for a long time and what have you. This is his 5th marriage, so hopefully this is the one that sticks. And
right.
And he stopped drinking and all that kind of good stuff. So I feel real happy about him. So we'll definitely do a Ric Flair part 2, most definitely. So
yeah.
Any final thoughts on the Nature Boy?
No, it's too much to cover, really. So just
it is.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So we are officially out of